Welcome to my podcast. Today I'll be previewing the Atlantic Division for the upcoming NHL season. I will start from the weakest team and work my way up to the best team in the division. At number 8, we have the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres are the weakest team in the Atlantic Division. They will likely be in the lottery once again this season. They are just not good enough. In the offseason, they traded Tyler Ennis and Marcus Foligno for Jason Pominville and Marco Scandella. They also added Nathan Beaulieu and Benoit Pouliot and brought in Chad Johnson to back up Robin Lehner. The Sabres are at least 2 or 3 years away from being legit contenders. Their key additions this offseason are Jason Pominville, Marco Scandella, Nathan Beaulieu, Benoit Pouliot, and Chad Johnson. Their key departures this offseason are Tyler Ennis, Marcus Foligno, and William Carrier. Their key players are Jack Eichel, Ryan O'Reilly, Rasmus Ristolainen, Kyle Oposo, Evander Kane, Sam Reinhart, and Robin Lehner. The X factor for the Sabres is Jake McCabe. Number 7, we have the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings are a better team than they were last season, but they won't make the playoffs. In the offseason, they added Trevor Daley, which makes the team a lot stronger on defense. The only notable loss was the loss of Thomas Nosek in the expansion draft. The Red Wings aren't likely going to make the playoffs this season with the team they have because they have many question marks at defense and goaltending. The key additions are Trevor Daley. The key departures are Thomas Nosek. Key players are Henrik Zetterberg, Dylan Larkin, Gustav Nyquist, Thomas Tatar, Franz Nielsen, Mike Green, and the combination of Jimmy Howard and Peter Mrazek. The X factor is Andreas Athanasiou. At number 6, we have the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers took the greatest hit in the offseason. They didn't re-sign Jaromir Jagr, and they lost Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith to the expansion draft. However, the Panthers did add Evgeny Dadonov, Radim Vrbata, and Henrik Capella in free agency. The Panthers lost too much firepower in the offseason, so they will not make the playoffs this season. Key additions are Evgeny Dadonov, Radim Vrbata, and Henrik Capella. Key departures are Jaromir Jagr, Jonathan Marchessault, and Riley Smith. Key players are Aaron Ekblad, Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, Vincent Trocheck, Keith Yandel, and Roberto Luongo. The X factor is Michael Matheson. At number 5, we have the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins didn't really do anything to improve their team this offseason, and they still need to re-sign David Pastrnak. The Bruins lost Colin Miller to the expansion draft, but he was expendable anyways. Don't expect the Bruins to make the playoffs, but they will make a push for the final wildcard spot. They did not make any additions this offseason. The key departures are Colin Miller. Key players are Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, David Krejci, David Backes, Torrey Krug, and Tuukka Rask. The X factor is Charlie McAvoy. 4, we have the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators were hit hard in the expansion draft. They lost Mark Methot, who had been a staple on defense for the Senators. To replace Methot, a young defenseman is going to have to step up, maybe Thomas Chabot or Frederick Claesson. As insurance, just in case a young defenseman isn't ready for a top 4 role yet, the Sens signed Johnny Oduya. Ottawa Senators should make the playoffs as a second wildcard team. Key additions are Johnny Oduya and Nate Thompson. Key departures are Mark Methot. Key players are Erik Karlsson, Kyle Turris, Bobby Ryan, Mike Hoffman, Dion Phaneuf, and Craig Anderson. The X factor is Cody Ceci. At number 3, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs are one of the up-and-coming teams in the NHL. The main issue with the Leafs is that all their core players are entering their second year. This means that a sophomore slump could happen this season, which will hurt them in the standings. The Leafs added Patrick Marleau, Dominic Moore, and Ron Hainsey in the offseason. This move gives them more veteran experience in the lineup. Toronto Maple Leafs should finish 3rd in the Atlantic Division. Key additions are Patrick Marleau, Dominic Moore, and Ron Hainsey. Key departures are Brendan Lebsek. Key players are Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Nazem Kadri, Morgan Riley, Nikita Zaitsev, and Frederick Anderson. The X factor is Patrick Marleau. At number 2, we have the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens were one of the most active teams in the offseason. Even though they lost Alexander Radulov and Andrei Markov, they made up for it. To replace Radulov, they made a bold move and traded Mikhail Sergachev for Jonathan Drouin. In free agency, the Canadiens signed Carl Alzner. This move instantly gives them a dominant shutdown pair. Canadiens also traded for David Schlemko. This bolsters their depth on defense. The Montreal Canadiens may take some time to gel, but in time they should be the second best team in the division. Key additions are Jonathan Drouin, Carl Alzner, David Schlemko, and Alex Hemsky. Key departures are Alexander Radulov, Mikhail Sergachev, and Andrei Markov. Key players are Carey Price, Max Pacioretty, Jonathan Drouin, Shea Weber, Carl Alzner, and Brendan Gallagher. The X factor is Arturi Lehkonen. At number 1, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning are the best team overall in the division. With a healthy Steven Stamkos, they should be ready to make a deep playoff run. In the offseason, they added Chris Kunitz and Dan Girardi, 2 veteran players with playoff experience. The Lightning lost Jason Garrison in the expansion draft, but that's not really a huge loss. The big question regarding the Lightning is if Andrei Vasilevskiy is a proven number 1 goalie in the NHL. The key for the Lightning is everyone staying healthy. If everyone stays healthy, they should win the division. Key additions are Chris Kunitz and Dan Girardi. Key departures are Jason Garrison. Key players are Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, Nikita Kucherov, Tyler Johnson, Andrei Palat, and Andrei Vasilevskiy. X factor is Braden Point. Next podcast, I will be previewing the Metropolitan Division for the upcoming season.